Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into Module 22, Chapter 3, and honestly, we're tackling a topic that is a huge headache for environmental management systems everywhere, Clause 10.2 of ISO 14001:2026. This is an area where so many well-intentioned teams just stumble. Because it's not just about surviving your next audit or ticking off a compliance box. It's really about uncovering how an organization genuinely handles its environmental risks. Specifically, how to perform a structured root cause analysis to precede corrective action and distinguishing between immediate and systemic causes to stop issues from happening again. We're going to unpack the exact mechanics of solving these problems permanently so you can stop running in circles and build a truly resilient system. Okay, let's dive into this. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You fix an environmental issue, you feel great about the solution, you file all that necessary paperwork, and you move on, right? Only to have a lead auditor point out that exact same problem on that exact same valve or process 12 months later. It is an incredibly frustrating cycle. It wastes valuable time, it completely drains your resources with repetitive paperwork, and worst of all, it leaves a persistent vulnerability in your operations. That sinking feeling of dread when an old problem resurfaces is common, but that recurring failure is exactly what Clause 10.2 is designed to completely eliminate. To get you there, we'll be walking through a few key things today. We'll start with the quick fix trap, then compare immediate versus systemic causes, break down structured root cause analysis, figure out how to implement real corrective actions, and finally, verify their long-term effectiveness. All right, kicking things off with part 1, the quick fix trap. So just to make sure we're all starting from the exact same baseline, let's quickly define what a nonconformity actually is under ISO 14001:2026. Simply put, it's a failure to fulfill a requirement. Now, that requirement could come from the ISO standard itself, your own internal procedures, your regulatory permits, or even other legal obligations. Basically, it's a deviation from what you plan to do. And naturally, these deviations only seem to happen at the absolute worst times, usually right before a major inspection, right? When this happens, ISO 14001 demands a structured, methodical response, not just some panicked reaction to make the immediate mess disappear. Now, here is where so many organizations stumble. There is a hard, unmissable line between an immediate correction and a corrective action. They are fundamentally different things. An immediate correction is really just containing the symptom. Say a pipe burst and leaks chemicals onto the factory floor. Shutting off the main valve and mopping up the spill, that's an immediate correction. You've stopped the active bleeding. But a corrective action, that is curing the underlying disease. That means taking the time to figure out exactly why that pipe burst in the first place, and then engineering a solution so that no pipe in that entire facility ever burst for that same reason again.
Which brings us to part 2, immediate versus systemic causes.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. Think of environmental nonconformities like a giant iceberg. Distinguishing between what you can see above the water and what is hiding below is absolutely crucial to prevent recurrence. On one side, we have our immediate causes, the tip of the iceberg. These are the observable triggers that grab all of our urgent attention. A faulty valve, a cracked seal, a worker pressing the wrong button. But on the other side, we have systemic causes, that massive hidden block of ice down below. These are the deep, structural organizational weaknesses. We're talking about absent leadership, poor control design, flawed procurement policies, or maybe a complete lack of training. If you only fix the tip of the iceberg, that massive systemic block is just waiting down there to cause another incident. Because of this, I need to emphasize something absolutely crucial. Simply writing down operator error on an incident report is almost always a trap. It rarely tells the whole story, and for sure won't pass a rigorous lead auditor's assessment. If we just blame human error and stop investigating, we completely miss the actual failure. Like, why did the operator make the error? Were the instructions written in a language they actually understood? Were they properly trained on that specific machine? Was the equipment just designed poorly, making a mistake inevitable? Operator error is usually just a symptom of a much larger systemic failure, not the root cause itself. So how do we actually dig deeper? That's part 3, structured root cause analysis. To uncover those hidden systemic causes, you need a structured procedural flow. First, obviously, you clearly identify the incident. Second, you implement that immediate correction just to stabilize the situation. But third is where the real work begins. You start asking why repeatedly. This is the core of the 5 whys methodology. And it's incredibly powerful because asking why strips away our initial assumptions. You might think you know the answer right off the bat, but by the 3rd or 4th why, you usually uncover something entirely different. You have to keep drilling down through those organizational layers, challenging the status quo until you reach step 4 and pinpoint the actual systemic vulnerability. Let's put this into practice with a concrete scenario. Say we have a chemical leakage. Okay, immediate cause? A maintenance failure. A seal broke. But why did the seal break? Well, it wasn't replaced on time. Why wasn't it replaced on time? Because our maintenance schedule is inadequate and doesn't account for how heavily that specific equipment is used. Take a second and let that transition sink in. We went from a physical failure, literally a broken piece of rubber, to a systemic administrative failure, a flawed schedule. That right there is your true systemic cause. So your effective corrective action isn't just going out and buying a new seal. It's revising the entire maintenance schedule and putting predictive monitoring in place so no seal ever degrades to the point of breaking again. Once you've found that true systemic cause, it's time for part 4, implementing corrective actions. Now, what's really interesting about this checklist is that it shows you exactly what a bulletproof plan looks like under Clause 10.2. First off, your actions have to be proportionate to the risk. You don't need a massive, expensive software system to fix a minor paperwork typo, but you absolutely need robust engineering controls for a major pollution risk. Second, the action has to target that specific systemic weakness we just uncovered. Third, you've got to assign clear responsibilities and give your team the resources they need. Fourth, set realistic timelines. Don't promise management a complete facility overhaul by next Tuesday. And finally, you have to integrate this new solution into your daily operational planning so it just becomes the new normal. And please, whatever you do, do not skip this next step. Update your environmental management system documentation. Seriously, if your procedures change, if your training requirements change, or if your physical controls change, the paperwork absolutely must reflect it. Because to an auditor, if it isn't documented, it's essentially a hallucination. It literally didn't happen. Documenting the new process is what institutionalizes the fix. It guarantees that when a key employee eventually retires or takes a new job, the critical knowledge of how to prevent that specific environmental disaster doesn't just walk out the front door with them. All right, wrapping things up with our final section, verifying long-term effectiveness. Look, you can't just put a new procedure in place, dust off your hands, and assume the problem is permanently solved. You have to actually prove it. Lead auditors are looking for cold, hard, objective evidence to verify that a corrective action really worked in the real world over time. They're going to want to see your monitoring and measurement data trends steadily heading in the right direction. They want to see clean follow-up internal audit findings confirming that the new process is actually being used. They'll scrutinize your regular inspection reports and your updated compliance evaluations. Essentially, they are looking for a continuous, undeniable paper trail of success. So the crucial point is this. The ultimate goal, and really your only absolute proof of success, comes down to a single number: 0. A 0 reoccurrence rate for that specific nonconformity is the gold standard. If the exact same problem happens again, it means one of two things. Either your root cause analysis was completely flawed from the start, or the corrective action you implemented was just too weak to survive daily operational pressures. If you hit anything other than 0, I hate to say it, but you have to go right back to the beginning and start the whole cycle over. Which leads us to this powerful thought. By embedding continual improvement within the EMS framework, organizations create a culture of environmental responsibility, innovation, and sustainability. Mastering Clause 10.2 isn't just some dry administrative paperwork exercise to keep external auditors off your back. It is literally the engine that builds a proactive, resilient organization. When this mindset takes root, it completely changes the day-to-day reality on the floor. It looks like operators actively calling out potential issues before anything actually breaks. It looks like management choosing long-term structural fixes over cheap temporary bandages. It takes your past failures and transforms them into active stepping stones for operational excellence. So I want to leave you with this question to think about regarding your own operations. Are you just mopping up the floor, or are you actually fixing the leak? The very next time an environmental nonconformity lands on your desk, please don't settle for the quick, easy fix. Take the extra time to dive deep, strip away the obvious assumptions to find that hidden systemic root cause, and cure the disease for good. Start applying these structured root cause analysis techniques today and just watch how it transforms your entire approach to environmental management.